Hello, I'm Captain Stokes with the Baton Rouge Police Department. We wanted to have a conversation today to address domestic violence and how the COVID-19 pandemic response has impacted a slight increase in domestic violence situations. To get started, I have two special guests who are Ms. Tawana Harris. She's the director of the Butterfly Society. Mr. John Price, who's the director of the IRIS Domestic Violence Center. Mrs. Harris, can you tell us what is the Butterfly Society?
Yes, the Butterfly Society is a nonprofit organization here in our great city of Baton Rouge. We were established in 2014 through my personal journey as a survivor of domestic abuse. The organization came to life, not just for me, but for so many others who find themselves in the shoes of a victim. I've been advocating myself for 15 years as a survivor of domestic violence, volunteered at one of our local shelters here in the great city of Baton Rouge. Our organization provides many resources and services to the community, and we are a grassroots organization, feet on the ground, meeting people where they are, because where they are is where they're hurting. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Mr. Price, can you tell us about IRIS?
Thank you, Shauna, for asking me also. I'm John Price, Executive Director of the IRIS Domestic Violence Center. We are a 501c nonprofit service agency that provides victim services to individuals who are suffering from domestic abuse, family violence, intimate partner violence. We were founded in 1979 in Baton Rouge. We were incorporated in 1981, and we have been active and operational for 39 years now. We provide victim services to individuals free of charge and confidentially. Those services include operation of a 24-hour crisis line for individuals to call for information or assistance. We provide safe house sheltering for individuals that need sheltering from an abusive situation. We provide free legal service for individuals looking to have a protective order against their abuser. And we provide advocacy, information, and referral services, financial assistance, and transitional housing for individuals who need any of those services as a result of domestic abuse or family violence. We don't close. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year, no holidays, and we have not closed for COVID-19. So that's who we are.
Awesome. Let me just start off with some questions for you all. What is domestic violence and the different types of abuse, Tawana? Can you explain that?
Domestic violence is when one person in a relationship uses their power, invoke their power to control the other person, whether it's male or female. There's several types of domestic abuse. There's financial abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, religious abuse, cyber abuse. There's many different types of abuse, and we see it across the board, whether it's male, female, same sex, transgender. It's happening, and it's happening too often. In our great state of Louisiana, 2018, we ranked second in the nation. In 2019, we ranked second in the nation. In our great city of Baton Rouge, we have seen what domestic violence does to not just a family or to an individual, but what it does to a community.
Absolutely. John, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I would say no. I think she's covered it. It really, the actual domestic abuse, we believe, and statistics and data show that it's all about power and control, and one person trying to exert dominion and control over another individual. And the ability for that person to use violence or threats of violence, intimidation, coercive behavior against another individual, and it constitutes abuse, and it should never happen. And violence, obviously, is never appropriate under any circumstance.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next concern. How has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the slight incline in domestic violence, John?
I think that the data and statistics that I have looked at both nationally and locally would suggest that it may be premature at this point to make a decision or a call as to how it's going to actually impact it. I can tell you from the Baton Rouge community and the number of calls that we've received for assistance or services, they literally doubled or tripled in the first few weeks of the COVID-19 response. Now, if those calls increase, there is a logical explanation. Anytime you input a number of additional emotional stressors, so whether it be after the hurricanes, Katrina in 2005, the recession, the flooding in August of 2016, all of those situations kind of changed the community and jolted it. And the pandemic 19 response is no different. In fact, it may be even more severe because of, we've got social distancing, we've got stay-at-home orders, people are losing jobs and not able to work. Situations like that are all stressors. They don't cause domestic abuse, but they alter the landscape and they create stressors that can create a problem with abuse. So we are seeing an increase in those. If you weren't seeing an increase, though, in light of what we're going through, it's the perfect storm. Under normal circumstances, a survivor or a victim would be able to leave their abuser, go to work, go visit their friends, social structures. If you're locked in at home with an abuser, you're going to spend more time together. You may not be able to call for services as much as you were before. You're not going to be able to get out. You're not going to be able to have releases or find escapes. So, it's a much more volatile situation when you put the abuser and the victim in an environment where they can't get away from each other. The more time they're there, the more chance there is that there may be a triggering point and abuse would occur. So it's dangerous. We have seen an increase, obviously, in the number of calls. As far as the agency, we've maintained and implemented some emergency procedures. We're having individuals work at home. We're not taking them into our main shelter. We're using alternative site sheltering because we had an exposure to a COVID-19, someone that had it. So we felt like in safety, we needed to move away from that. And so we're following the governor's orders just like everyone else.
Absolutely. What about?
As an organization, we have seen a tremendous increase in call volume, 5% increase. Across the board, we have provided resources and services such as temporary lodging, housing clients in a hotel, assisting them with rental assistance because of loss of a job, just basic needs and essentials that they're in need of. We have a 24-hour hotline in place for our clients to call. Our team, the Butterfly Society team, is here, available. Nothing has shut down. But to hear the calls, to hear the fear and the voices of clients, we had one client say to me, Ms. Harris, she said, my safe space, my safe haven was my employer. My support system, my safety net was my coworkers, and I no longer have that. Right. And to hear that for someone, and she was only calling for someone to be able to hear her plea. Right. She needed a safe, Absolutely. She needed an outlet to pour out and get it off her chest. She said, I feel like I can't breathe. She said, we're together 24/7. She said, it's hard. So my suggestion to many of our clients is if you could take a walk outside, if you can do that, just to catch your breath, just to gather your thoughts, or even if there's a spare room in the house where you can go and just sit for a minute, just to gather yourself, even offering to journal about it. You may not be able to contact anyone right. or speak to anyone. Get a pen and paper and write it down just to release yourself of the burden and the heaviness of what so many of our clients are facing and dealing with. Your neighbor, if you hadn't seen any movement next door at a neighbor's house, walk over there and check on them. It's so important during this time that family members check on family members, check on your friends, check on your loved ones, just to let them know that you're thinking about them. Right. Because when I tell you, this is a very hard and dangerous place to be in right now. And many of our clients feel like there's no way out.
Right. Good. Absolutely. What are some reasons why you all believe people are impacted by domestic violence choose to stay as opposed to leaving the abusive relationship, Tawana?
This is a great question because, many times you have the spectators on the outside looking in, and we're very quick to judge,
Right.
Never knowing the entire picture or knowing the entire story, but you're speculating what it could possibly be. I had a lady say to me, and when she said this to me, it hit me in my stomach. She said, I didn't run to domestic violence. I woke up in it. You don't see it coming. When you know that it's there, you're already in it. Many reasons victims remain is because a lack of resources, no place to go. When you think of a shelter, let's be real. When you say shelter, you think of a homeless shelter. They don't have a support system. Many of their family members have turned their backs on them, have cut the line of communication because they've been there for them and they chose to return back to the situation. Fear. Absolutely. Fear will cripple you. Fear will keep you in a situation longer than you need to be kept. Right. If your abuser is threatened to kill you or family members or your children, you will remain. Right. You will sacrifice yourself for your kids, for your family, for your children. Starting over, the unknown, what's out there. You've been with someone 25 years, and then all of a sudden you have to walk away from everything that you built with this person and have to start over from day one. That's challenging. That's fearful. So I like to leave people with this. Instead of asking the question, why are you still there? The question that should be asked is, what can I do to help?
Absolutely. And that's a prevalent question that you guys ask people who are impacted domestic violence on a regular basis. John, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I will tell you that an interesting statistic that when I first started doing domestic violence work that struck me was, because I guess when you come into it, one of the common questions, and probably the most common question that the outside world has, is, why don't they just leave? Okay. And I think I probably had that on the top of my mind when I first began working there. And the statistics and the data shows that it actually takes a survivor sometimes 7 times on average to finally leave an abusive situation. Every situation is different. If you have children, you're going to put up with and deal with a lot more abuse typically than somebody would be if they didn't have children, because you're worried about their welfare and their concern. And if somebody is threatening you every day about killing you or killing the children or harming the children or taking the children, all of those things, it's a driving force. When we counsel with victims, we never make the decision for them about what they should do. Absolutely. Part of what we're trying to do is to develop self-empowerment and independence in those individuals who are undergoing abuse. Right. If they were stronger and were able to get to that point where they were driven by self-empowerment models, then they make the decision. So if their decision is, I'm not leaving this situation, we're not going to judge them on that. That's their life. That's their decision. They get to paint their picture just like you and I do. Right. So we will support her decision because that's what we want to do, and that is part of self-empowerment. That's right. But all of the reasons that Tawana gave with regard to fear, and the one other thing, it's a fallacy and a myth to believe that you're the individual who can make that person change. Right. That you're the only individual. And when people go in, and typically it's so confounding because where you find this abuse and violence is in the one place where you would least expect it. It's supposedly in between partners. Right. So it's very confusing. It's very confounding. But a woman or a man who is the person there and they want their relationship to work and they may have had to stand up against other people. So they, this is who I'm choosing to spend my life with or partner with. And they make that decision. They don't want to have to admit that that was wrong. They're in love. And you can love an abuser. Yes. Believe me, I see it all the time. Right. And you may think you can change them. And that is one of the fallacies in this. You're not going to change them. Right. They have to change themselves. Absolutely. And sometimes the best thing you can do is be healthier you. Right. And that means leaving. Right. But It's a very difficult challenge, and we believe that we support their decisions, whatever they may be.
I want to also add that I was watching a video and it's titled, "Why Did I Stay?" And one of the ladies in the video said that she went to her pastor and told her pastor what she was faced with and what she was going through. And her pastor said to her was, God frowns on divorces. So guess what she did?
Wow.
She stayed. She remained. Now,
Because-
if you can't go to a church, and the church is supposed to be your safe haven,
Right.
where could you go? So back to what the question itself, and agreeing with what John said, as a society, we have to get to a place of understanding. We have to get to a place of understanding instead of a place of condemning.
Right.
We need to be more and position ourselves in a place of understanding and supporting and less judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, let me ask you, is there a safety plan available for victims who decide that they would like to leave their abusive relationship or situation? And if so, what is it?
Well, and a safety plan is really nothing more than a risk assessment and trying to direct you to safety, and it can happen within the abusive relationship and outside of the abusive relationship. So at our center, the advocates are trained in what we call trauma-informed care, and they can do a risk assessment on you, and they can also do a safety plan. So every situation is based on where you are and circumstances surrounding you. So if you're living with an abuser in an abusive situation and you have children, you know, we may talk with you about all kinds of things. You may be devising a way to escape.
Right.
And literally sometimes it is an escape. It's
Right.
not a, I'm leaving you and pack up and leave.
Right.
You're running out in the middle of the night.
Yes.
And someone is chasing you with a weapon. And we all talked about something just a few minutes ago.
Right.
So there's all kinds of situations that exist. What we do and what we try to assess with them is, okay, here's the situation. First, and some of it is just common sense. I need to have a plan of how I'm going to leave and where I'm going to go.
Right.
Do I have family members or friends who would be willing to put me up if I got over there? Or am I going to go to our domestic violence center or call the Butterfly Society for a place to stay? But the safety plan goes beyond all of that. Do you have documents that you need to have? Your birth certificate, your identification cards, your social security, your insurance paper, your medical records, all of those things that when you leave the house, you may not ever go back there again, at least not under the same circumstances or have access to that. How do you park your car? Where do you park your car? Do you have an extra set of keys? Should I pack a bag over here with clothes in the event I'm going to make my move? And we plan these things out as to, it's going to happen this Saturday and I'm going to my friend's house. And the scary thing is the survivor is making a long-term plan for their life. And in the short term, it becomes a very dangerous situation. Because the power and control that the abuser has exhibited and been able to utilize is being broken when that person leaves, and that's when they are more likely to become volatile.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to look far in the history of Baton Rouge and law enforcement and everything to see the tragedies that we've had where individuals were doing that. It's making sure that you understand the risks involved, because one problem that survivors have is they underestimate the violence or the capacity that an abuser, he would never do that, she would never do that. And you just don't know what's going to be triggering them. So safety planning within the abusive relationship, and then afterwards, if you go, where are you going to live? And how are we going to secure you there in safely? Changing locks, changing windows, putting in fire alarms, putting in extinguishers. I mean, we've had fires, I think 2 years ago, there were 4 fires where people were trying to burn people out. So there's a whole myriad of interesting scenarios and trained people, like at the Irish Domestic Violence Center, and I'm sure Tawana's people do the same thing, but we put together a detailed safety plan, even using code words, and you have to incorporate children in this, because children are witnessing this. someone's leaving, you're going to want to take the children. Sometimes you have to be very upfront with them and say, hey, this is not good. This is not good behavior. We're in a situation. If you hear mommy or daddy say this word, that kind of means here's the plan in action. You share that with friends.
Yeah.
You got stuff to add to
No,
that?
you
Because
hit it all.
you can go forever on this.
forever.
But I mean,
You can.
And making certain that someone knows, and you just said that, but also changing your route,
yeah.
Right.
how you travel, that is so important also. But John hit the ball out the
Well, the other thing is, it's amazing how many people forget about, leaving their abuser, and then they come with a telephone and someone's following them on social media.
Right.
And so there's you've got to disconnect the thing where they can't follow you on that or stalk you through there. And, they're always wondering, how does he always know where I am? And I say he, but it could be anyone. But how does the abuser always know? Because he's following you. He's following you.
And basically, you have to change your lifestyle.
You
have
do
to have that mindset.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
And safety,
And safety. And sometimes, safety, sometimes you don't have an opportunity to do a safety plan.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to pick your purse up and leave with the clothes on your back.
Right.
Sometimes it happens that way because the opportunity has presented itself.
Right.
So, it's all about what works for you.
Absolutely.
And how you can get out there safely. Because like John said, this is one of the most deadliest times for a victim is whenever they leave.
Absolutely.
And never, 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 never tell your abuser that you are leaving.
Right.
That's the biggest mistake you can ever make.
And
it happens.
Yeah, that's leading into my next question. What is the biggest mistake that a victim who is being abused that could possibly make when he or she decides to leave an abusive relationship?
I think that, I touched on it. I think telling your abuser that you're leaving, and I think it's done in a way that hopefully and prayerfully he may change. Or she. He may decide to change and own up to what he's done, or she, and, maybe decide that I'm going to go to counseling, go to rehab, and, things may be different. That is not going to get a person to change. And it may last for a week. It may last for 2 weeks, that honeymoon phase.
Right.
But that is no guarantee. That is no guarantee at all. But I want us to remember this when engaging in this conversation. It's all about mental control.
Right.
That's where it starts. That's where it ends. And you just said that. It's all about mental control. And sometimes when you are faced with a decision of remaining or leaving, it's hard. I've been there. Right. I know what that's like. And I tell people all the time, just put on a pair of shoes one day and walk in somebody's shoes for a day, and you will have a change of heart.
Right.
So we have to be mindful of who we're dealing with and what, the mindset of how do I do this? If I leave, what will happen? Right. If I remain, I'm already dealing with it. So what's the worst thing that can happen? So it's a challenge there. It is. It's very challenging.
And that's why we have people like you all.
Yes.
That are supporting people who are impacted by domestic violence. Okay. The next question is, what are some of the warning signs, the red flags that people can look for if they are in an abusive relationship?
Jealousy, short-tempered, monitoring your coming and going, want to know who you're engaging with on Facebook, who your friends are, has a problem with you spending time with your friends and your family member, pretty much isolating you from your support system.
Right, a control factor.
Yeah, a control factor. It's all about control, isolation, intimidation, and manipulation. That's what it's about.
Now, once someone recognizes these red flags or what have you, and let's say that it may be the victim, what actions should they take at that point?
John?
I think that I think the most important thing, and we've used it before, I've tried to, is it's like 3 R's. You recognize the situation,
Mm-hmm.
you respond to the situation, and then you refer someone.
Right.
And so being cognizant of changes in behavior, somebody that's dressing long sleeve in the middle of the summer,
Yes.
hiding abuse marks or anything along those lines, you got to be aware of all of those situations. And you can tell there are changes in their personality and behavior, some of the things that Tawana talked about. So all that is part of the recognition deal. And then you respond. You know, we teach trauma-informed care, which is don't be judgmental, understand the situation.
Right.
These individuals who have undergone abuse for a long period of time have adapted and have introduced coping mechanisms to allow them to endure what they're going through.
Right.
What you're seeing there is not the real person. It wouldn't be Shauna Stokes. It would be something else that had been created because of the situation that you were in.
Right.
So when you go to approach them, there is a tendency to want to ask or anything, but I mean, you basically have to be supportive and create an environment that says, hey, I noticed you didn't look good last week and you don't feel good today. Is everything okay? I care about you. And you're trying to build a trust and confidence relationship because they haven't disclosed to you voluntarily that they're abused, and you're inviting that opportunity.
And when that happens, say for instance, whether it be the victim or someone in our community that recognize these red flags, how can your organization assist them once after you're contacted?
Right. We get family members to call on behalf of a person they suspect is going through it. And when they contact us, we let them know, look, please pass on our information. We would love to have a conversation with them.
Right.
And when someone does contact us, there's an intake process, and I do the intake process. But before anything, you want them to know that you believe them, you support them, and you have their back.
Absolutely.
And once you give them that opens up the door for them to feel comfortable enough. They trust you, they believe in you, and they will share with you anything that you ask. And it's confidential. It's confidential information unless they're disclosed to you that a child is being abused or an elderly person is being abused. You have to report that. But sometimes they call and are not ready to leave. Right. And like John said, you help them to remain in an unsafe space until that time comes for them to leave. And if they're ready to leave, we believe in Iris Domestic Violence Center. We will refer them. If they're looking for long-term living assistance, we'll refer them to Iris, or we'll house them in a hotel. And it's just for them to know that you have organizations on the ground that's doing the work, who's committed to the work, to assist them, and you're not alone.
Let me ask you this. What are some ways to support domestic violence organizations, John?
Well, obviously, we're both nonprofits. We both aggressively seek out funding sources from everywhere. So anybody that can make a contribution or a donation to the agencies, we certainly would love to see that. And we have been very fortunate in the Baton Rouge community. In-kind donations, because we take in things that people want to get rid of, and we take them in, we give them to survivors because they're starting their life over. But beyond just the money and of donations, contributions, or in-kind, I'm more about the spirit and volunteers, because people can adopt domestic abuse and violence as their cause. And we have people that come in and assist us in the operations of our agency. You can undergo training and answer crisis calls if you so desired. You can come in and help clean up the building or sort the donations or assist where we can. Certainly, we have to do certain things with protocol and you have to be trained for it. Right. But as far as the operations of the agency, you want to donate your time and your lawnmower and come do my landscaping? That would be that would be helpful.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we are all volunteer-based organization. We have from college students to seniors who volunteer with us, who give their time, hours of their time, because they believe in the work that we're doing and there's such a need for it. Yeah. So I'm like, John, your money, your time, your in-kind donation, we need you to step up. We need you
Absolutely.
to donate to us and give to us so we can continue to provide the resources and services that's so desperately needed here in the city of Baton Rouge.
There's no doubt that these services save lives.
Yes.
I can't tell you how proud I am of the agency that I work for and the staff that I have
Right.
and the kind of work that they do. It is demanding, it is challenging, it is exhausting under normal circumstances. And during these last 90 days or whatever it's been since COVID-19, it has been even more challenging.
Well, I can just say, from my standpoint, I work closely along with you two. And anytime that I try to provide services for a person that has been impacted with domestic violence and who needs it, whether it be intimate emergency services or just long-term services, I pick up the phone and contact you guys, and you guys are just there every time. And it's much needed assistance. I welcome it. My victims.
Thank you.
I mean, I just can't say enough about you guys.
It's very
and I
important.
greatly appreciate it.
Thank you
I
so
do.
much.
I mean, you're always there.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. As an organization, we also believe in partnering. We believe in that
Absolutely.
partnership because it's going to take a village to end this.
Absolutely.
One organization can't do it. It takes each and every one of us working together. We've partnered with Iris. We refer people to Iris. They refer folks to us.
Absolutely.
It takes everyone's hands and feet to make this work. So we're in this for the long haul. We have a great team of people who is passionate, committed, and true to this work. We're not going anywhere. We're in the community. We're a grassroots organization. We believe in meeting people where they are because where they are is where they're hurting.
Absolutely. I just can't say enough good things about you all. I do. I believe in you. I believe in the cause. And I say thank you.
And we appreciate you, Captain.
Absolutely.
We
You've
do.
been there for us. I know that.
Yes.
One team, right?
Yes,
Average
I like
strong.
that. I like that. One team.